Hey, this is Shooting Nerd, and this is the first of a bunch of promised reviews on how the items in the system overall performed when I had my tactical rifle course. I don't know how many there'll be. I guess I could sit down and count how many different items. But this first one's going to be on the weapon system itself, including the weapon, the magazine, and the grip, and the sling I used. For your information, again, this is a Romac SAR1 variant AK-47. It's Romanian, and quite frankly, aside from the fact that it had, I think, 2 jams, and I'm not entirely sure whether those were ammo related or, as I mentioned in my review of the actual class, it might have been a partial. I hadn't completely turned the safety off. Given the stress of the situation, I wasn't paying that close attention, but overall, from a function standpoint, the gun did really, really well. But for a durability standpoint, I'm really not very thrilled with it. It was raining all day during the shoot, and I rinsed the thing out because I used, surplus ammunition that had corrosive primers. So I had to field strip it, and I just rinsed. I took it, literally put it into the shower, and took the hose on it and just literally rinsed it off for probably about 20-30 seconds at least. And just patted it dry and then just left it sit in there overnight. When I came back in the next morning, there was surface rust all over the thing. Now, if there's some surface rust inside of the bore or inside of the gas tube, I'd say, okay, that makes some sense. I guess it was corrosive and all that. But I'm not sure whether it's still obvious or not, but there's corrosion all over, just real slight amounts, but there's corrosion all over the dust cover. There's corrosion just here and there on the range adjustment and also on the barrel. Now I will say, even though I gave this thing a really good flushing out, I did not flush the gas tube out enough. There was a bunch of red corrosion around here coming out where, if you've never fired an AK, this is not a perfect seal up here. There is a little bit of gas that comes out. I think they use that as a secondary metering for how fast and how quickly the firearm cycles. But realistically, I'm sorry that this gun, it has seen about, prior to this class, probably, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 rounds through it maybe. But, and even though I don't baby this gun, it spends all its time in the house. So the bluing on it should be in good shape, and to get surface rust just from sitting there from one evening of maybe didn't get it absolutely bone dry, that to me is just absolutely pathetic. Was not happy with that, and I'm going to have to investigate getting this thing completely Parkerized, Duracoated, or maybe re-blued. There's a number of places around that specialize in AKs, so I might even look into getting a new barrel. The one thing I will say is that after I put a fresh patch down there, I did not see any corrosion on the inside of the barrel. So clearly I rinsed that out enough and there wasn't any surface rust in that, but we'll have to see. Now, from an overall negative thing, I wanted to talk about the Hogue monogrip. It literally is the only thing on this gun and during the whole experience that I have absolutely no qualms with. During wet situations, it has very good grip. Even though I'm wearing gloves, it still had very good grip. It was comfortable, it didn't rattle, didn't come loose, didn't do anything. Granted, it's only a grip, but hey, it performed flawlessly. Really, really like it. I bought this off of Midway, I believe, Midway USA. Like I said in the previous video where I described each item, that includes, I posted a link on that. This Black Hawk, the 1-point sling. Comfort-wise, it was fantastic. It's got bungees in it, so it does a nice job of supporting everything. You would think that this little single clip point thing would be really nice to remove. However, it's up on your right, or for me it's up on my right shoulder, and it actually takes quite a bit of squeeze to get it out. And with my fingers, bare fingers, it comes out okay. But if you've got gloved fingers, you're a little cold, a little tired, that's actually difficult to get off. And when the instructor wanted to take my firearm and be able to do some demonstrations with it, I tried to do that first, and he's like, actually I prefer it without the sling. And so you're sitting here, you have to squeeze this section down here, and then you have to thread this out of the single point grip. Now, with 2 fingers you can do that okay, but that's too tough. If you want to get your gun on, gun off, if you have to do some maintenance on it while you're in the field and you need to get it off right now, it's not that great. So I'm looking at some other options. I've got a couple of suggestions I'm going to try out. I've heard the Magpul one has the very quick little release like this. However, the stitching actually comes apart. So I've got a couple options besides that, but anyway. It's quality, it works well enough, and if you don't have a cluttered load-bearing vest, it's not bad. Well, that was one thing I forgot to mention. A lot with all the buckles and slides and attachments, it kind of gets hung up in your load-bearing equipment. Now, unfortunately, a good part of that is just the fact that I have a whole bunch of magazines and so on the front of my vest, so I'll go into the vest as well. But that was something I ran into, is that this whole thing would actually get hung up. Now, this does have a little bit of a sleeve that's supposed to slide down and cover this so it doesn't hang up on stuff. It didn't work as well as I had expected. You can actually roll this thing all the way down and it does cover it up. But again, when you're doing a lot of work on it, anyway, enough about that. If I were to give this a 1 to 10 rating, I'd give it a 6 or a 7. That's probably fair. Quality, I'll give it a 9 or a 10. But usability, I'd give it a 6 or a 7. Okay, quality and all that for the grip, I'd put that 9 out of 9, and both for usability and durability. The rifle as a whole, function, 8 or a 9. Durability, I'd drop that down a little bit. One other thing, this is one of, I think I had like 10 of them originally, I'm down to 7. This is one of the banana mags that I bought when I got this gun. It's got the rib on the back, and I guess that makes it much more durable. The only problem is, when you're doing your reloads, this cuts right into the tendons on your thumb. Today is Friday, Christmas Eve. It's almost been a week, and my thumb still hasn't completely recovered from it. That's injured, and that's not a good thing. I'm going to have to figure out some way of maybe putting some silicone or something like that, wrapping some tape around there, because that was a big, strong negative. That's the magazine's durable and on all that, but ergonomics on it sucks. Now, unfortunately, living here in California, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Theoretically, I can repair this magazine, and that's not a problem. I can repair any part, including the base, the spring, the follower, and the shell itself. So, in theory, I could repair the spring, repair the case, repair the bottom, repair the follower, and just happen to get all new plastic parts like from Tapco or something like that. However, if you're dealing with police and whatnot that may or may not know the laws, heck, just the fact that I have high-capacity magazines is probably enough to make them a little bit questionable about me, but I'm not sure I want to do that. I might get them just to try them out when I go out shooting in Las Vegas or something like that, because I am legally able to buy them, but I just can't transport them back to the state of California. Lastly, I wanted to go over the Tapco stock. It functioned well enough, but one thing that really got me to thinking, and I'll go through and I probably won't bother with a review. If you look at this, I mentioned it in my more detailed review of when I was assembling the gun, there's a gap right here. Now, when I was first doing it, I was thinking, okay, that's probably just some stupidity on my part. What I'm coming to realize is that on this Tapco grip, this surface here and this line right here are basically perpendicular. The way the grip is designed is that it's a little bit tighter than that, so that this surface here actually is moved in this way, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Theoretically, you could put a couple of shims here, and that would move things down so that this surface is held in place and that everything's at the right alignment. And in fact, I'm probably going to do that simply because right now, when I'm shooting this gun, the load is right on this part right here and on the screws on the back here, both this screw and that screw. And it held up fine. I didn't see any breakage, but if I break this at my AK, I'm in a world of hurt. I can't really replace it. I can replace some of the parts, but I'd rather not have to. So what it looks like I'm going to have to do is take these screws back out, shim under this one right here, and then reassemble it to get rid of that, because this should be where all the load is going. Right now, because that tang is sticking out, it's going to every time it fires and recoils, it's going to be doing a little bit of a funky torsion thing, and that's not good. But from a usability standpoint, it was fine, and I guess I would have liked to have had a rubber butt pad on the back here to give it a little bit, make it a little bit softer. But as it was, I had this thing fully collapsed by the end of the day because of the way I was shooting it. So functions fine. I'm not sure whether this gap issue here is a function of the way the tang is made on the Romac, or maybe it is a quality issue with the way the Tapco stock is done. I don't know. But it's a fine stock, and like I said, I really like the fact that it is truly ambidextrous. But yeah, it would have been nicer to have something that I can just literally bolt in there and not have to worry about it. So again, I've got other items on this that I'm going to go through and review, including the optics and all of that stuff. But the stock, pretty good. I'm not real thrilled about that gap. The grip, flawless. The magazines, well, if you're going to be using something like this as a go-to-war gun, or you're going to be practicing a lot, I would look for a magazine that doesn't have this ridge. I'm not sure whether you can get them that don't have it that are still sturdy, but from an ergonomic standpoint, that really becomes a problem. At least it did for me. The sling worked well enough, but the moment you want to take the gun off, it's a pain in the ass. So, not a comfort. I'm really favorable on it. It was really comfortable. Never really had any problems with it. But if you're trying to take your firearm off you, it's a pain in the butt. And honestly, the Romac SAR1, I'm less than thrilled with. Function, I think it's fine, but durability, you basically need to take it out and have this thing Duracoated or something, because as it sits right now, it's not cutting it. It needs to be much more proof against the elements. Just a little bit of tap water or a little bit of rainwater sitting overnight, and this shouldn't have this thing turning bright orange the next morning. So at any rate, I realize that's what one, two, three, four, 5 reviews all in one, but I don't really think that they all justified having their own review because they're all pretty simple. So at any rate, this is Shooting Nerd. Take care.